right, as Austin said, we're in our final week of Resurrecting Sunday, and it's been all about how one day each week has the potential to make you less distracted, less exhausted, less lonely, and more alive than ever. And today we're going to explore how Sunday can move you from loneliness to encouragement. And it gives you a sense of belonging and to keep moving forward in this journey of faith that we all have as we follow Jesus throughout our week. You know, we live in a culture that makes it seem like relationships happen in 10 seconds. Like you can watch TikTok or Instagram, watch a 10-second video and feel like you know someone's whole life story, and then you're like, wait, what's their name? Right? Like these relationships in real life don't actually happen like that. There's actually some interesting research that Robin Dunbar and Jeffrey Hall did as they studied relationships. And they actually found that relationships develop in layers over time. You move from acquaintance to casual friend to close friend. And these movements, the transition to each, take shared experience, presence with people, time together. And they found that to move from acquaintance to casual friend, you need 50 hours with someone. To move from casual friend to close friend, it's about 200 hours. Which raises a question for us. If relationships take time, what does it actually look like to begin building them? Most of us want this community, but often we don't slow down enough to find it. I mean, when's the last time you actually stood in a line and talked to somebody around you rather than looked at your phone? It's not very often anymore, right? But that could be the start of maybe your best friend. Who knows? I don't know. But so we're going to try to do something simple today. We're going to do a little experiment, okay? And for those of you that know me or have seen me MC up here, you know that meet and greet is one of my favorite times. I'm making some of your skin crawl right now, and I apologize. But we're going to take 2 minutes together, and what we're going to do is I want you to stand and find somebody that maybe you didn't come to church with, someone you don't know as well, and you're going to take your phone out. It's one of the only times I'll encourage phone usage during service. But find a photo on your camera roll and talk about its significance, whether it's the last photo you took or something that's important to you. Why did it earn a spot on your camera roll? Okay? So we're going to have 2 minutes. Those of you who are a little more extroverted, create space for those that are a little uncomfortable with this experiment, okay? But we're going to have 2 minutes. Share your photos with each other, and then we'll come back. All right. Bring it on back. I love how much you all are talking. That means this experiment was worth it. Yes. I saw Layla's hot dog from yesterday. It was great. All right. So, some of you might have felt really uncomfortable with that. And others might have felt like it was really easy. But either way, there was something significant about those 2 moments. Honestly, you're 2 minutes in to 50 hours to become an acquaintance to a casual friend. So congratulations. But some of you might be sitting there too and thinking, I need to know when she's preaching next because I will not be back here that Sunday. And I encourage you, I won't do this often, okay? But thank you for diving in with me. Honestly, some of us feel really disconnected in life. And we have this desire to be more connected to people. And maybe we're not sure how to do it, right? And so Sundays, they can become this space where we can build relationship with people. Yes, they help us slow down. They help us rest or become more focused. But they were never meant to be experienced alone. And how many of us can resonate with this thought of sitting in a really crowded room, maybe like this, and feeling more alone than ever? Sundays weren't meant for that. Your faith wasn't meant for that. And we're going to look at today what God actually has to say about that. To live our faith out, not just on our own, but together. So if you could turn to Hebrews 10, we'll be looking at verses 22 through 25. Hebrews is in the New Testament. Towards the very back, if you're not familiar with the Bible, you can look at the contents and it'll get you there, but it'll be on the screen behind me as well. Hebrews 10, 22 through 25. As I read this, I want you to pay attention to a phrase that's repeated a couple times. Let us draw near with a true heart in full assurance of faith, and our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience, and our bodies washed in pure water. Let us hold on to the confession of our hope without wavering, since he who promised is faithful. And let us consider one another in order to provoke love and good works, not neglecting to gather together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging each other, and all the more as you see the day approaching. The word of the Lord. So there was a phrase in these 3 verses that's repeated 3 times. Anybody catch it? Oh, yes. Let us, let us, let us. And so we're going to dive into these let us's and discover how when we draw near, when we hold on to our hope, and when we consider others together, what that leads us towards. And it leads us towards being less lonely and discouraged and into a community of belonging and encouragement. And like the rest of this series, it just starts with Sunday, but it has this promise of becoming part of our everyday lives if we let it. So this first let us statement is let us draw near. Let us draw near to whom? To God. Before anything else, before we talk about showing up for others, before we talk about community, building friendships, the invitation starts here, to draw near to God. 2 weeks ago, Austin preached on how Sundays can help us be more focused, and it wasn't just a productivity tool, although it can help us to be more productive, but it was about making space to focus on the one thing that is necessary. And we looked at the story of Mary and Martha to do that. And that one thing is Jesus. And when I think about drawing near to God, it can typically draw us to think about like quiet time in the morning, right? Prayer and scripture. But it's so much more than that. This invitation invites us into the transitions of all the chaos of our day, where we can draw near and pray and thanksgiving. for all that he's done, right? I think about when I come home from work and I'm about to walk in to home. I actually see my husband do this. He will sit in the car for several minutes because he's like, I know what's going to happen when I walk in the doors, right? It's just chaos. But you take a minute and you pray, God, let me be present. Let me leave what was in my work and be present what's going to be in my home. Or when I wake up in the morning and I just want to grab my phone, instead of pausing and saying, God, thank you for giving me breath. And not to be inundated with the texts and emails that all of a sudden I feel all this urgency to respond to, but let me just pause for a second. Or when I'm in back-to-back meetings and I want to sprint down the hallway, but taking a minute just to breathe, reflect on what happened, and pray about what will. It's small moments of drawing near to God that don't just change my relationship with him, but they can change my relationship and how I show up with other people. I've noticed that community doesn't break down always in big moments. It's typically like these small little moments where it breaks down. Because if we're not taking time to draw near to God throughout our day, we might become more reactive or more distracted and less aware of the people in front of us. I think some of the biggest arguments with my husband have been over the smallest things. Okay? He has an issue with how I load the dishwasher. I don't understand. I think it's perfectly fine. Plastic always goes on the bottom, right? Or when he takes a bite off my plate and I just wasn't done eating my food. Right? But we all have those little moments with people we're closest with, and it can lead to these big moments. But it's the little transitions that got us there. And so this invitation, these moments become an invitation to let us draw near. And it's not just a moment on a Sunday. It's a way of life and how we live and walk. And so you may be thinking, okay, I get that drawing near to God, it affects my life and how I interact with people, but how do I know that it's actually working? How do I see that? John Mark Comer, he's the pastor and founder of Practicing the Way. He says something really simple, yet it's pretty challenging. He says, love is the acid test of spiritual formation. The single most important question is, are we becoming more loving? And what he means is, it's not that the time with Jesus doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But it's the time with Jesus, it's meant to produce something in us, to make us more loving, more present, more patient, more aware of everything that's going on around us and the people around us, to transform us from being me-centric to others-centric. And notice, this invitation doesn't say, you draw near. It says, let us draw near. Because our faith, while it's personal, it's not meant to be private. It's something we do together. And the reason we draw near isn't because we've earned it. It's because Jesus has already made a way for it, but it's for all of us together. Which means when we come to the cross, we don't stand and say, do I belong? Do you belong? And kind of judge that. No, we kneel at the cross because we are so grateful that he's given us this invitation to draw near. And we notice when more people want to come in, and we make space for them to come. We have a saying in our house, there's always room at the table. And when we think about Sundays and Sabbath that we learned about last week, there's always room to commune together as we draw near to Jesus. That's a picture of heaven. And that's the taste that we get as we draw near to Jesus. Sundays are meant to be the starting point of that, not a place where we have to come and perform or prove ourselves, but a place that says, hey, no matter what you've been through this week, no matter what you've done, come near together. And as we are drawing near to God, we're drawn closer to each other. I was talking with Austin about this, and I'm no graphic designer at all, so don't judge me on this next slide. And I don't have the talent that Austin has of playing piano and singing. So this is my best attempt at graphic design. But as we draw near to God on that left-hand side, what happens to you and others? You draw closer to one another. If we're not drawing near to God, that might not be the best depiction, but essentially, we're missing each other or colliding into each other. And we leave feeling disconnected, hurt, not any closer to God. I've tried to push my way into community before, and it doesn't go well. Before drawing near to God, I feel drained, distracted, irritated. And so when I draw near to people without drawing near to God, I don't have much to offer. And I'm never going to grow towards other people. The kind of community that we long for doesn't start with us trying harder to be present. It starts with us being present with God. And when we create these rhythms of drawing near to God, things might begin to shift in us. We become less performative and more honest, less guarded, more open, less anxious and more anchored. And relationally, we might stop comparing with others, or we create space rather than judgments. We become more patient, more present. We see this fruit coming out of us in our lives, and you begin to notice that when you walk into a room, you don't ask, do I belong here, or do they belong here, but you start asking, who can I make space for? Because Jesus had made space for me. Who can I draw near to because Jesus drew near to me? Even that exercise earlier. Some of you felt complete freedom to do that, and others were like, oh, this is awful. And that's okay. Jesus makes space for all of that. But the thing is, in Jesus, we get to experience true freedom of what it looks like to be fully ourselves, and we can have that too in community with each other. Because drawing near to God frees us from ourselves so we can move towards others well. And this leads to the second phrase, let us hold on to the confession of our hope. Let us hold on. If drawing near is about presence, holding on is about the pressure of life, because life doesn't just test whether you believe in Jesus. It tests whether you will keep believing in the truth of who Jesus is and what he says he has done when life is hard and things don't change when you want them to, and they've lasted way too long, and you have to keep holding on. Grip strength is a really good picture of this. Grip strength is what measures how securely you can hold on and squeeze or lift objects utilizing your hand. And physiologically speaking, it's a key indicator of longevity of life. So the longer you can keep grip, that's a great indicator for aging. And I think it's a great indicator of our faith. But you don't quickly let go of grip typically. Most of the time you get tired. You start slowly losing grip until all of a sudden it's just gone. It's slow, it's subtle. And a lot of us don't have trouble believing in God and his goodness and graciousness in theory. But again, when life gets heavy, it's hard to hold on to hope. And that's where community matters more than we realize. Because notice again, it doesn't say, you hold on. It says, let us hold on. Because sometimes the reason you're holding on is because someone else is helping hold you up. And community in these moments can't fix everything. but it can keep you from letting go of your hope. This reminds me of my youngest son on the playground. He always wants to go on the monkey bars, and he gets up there and immediately starts saying, "Mom, help, I need help," right? And like he's going to drop. So I walk over and I put my hand like under his legs. I don't take him off the bars. I just hold up his legs to help him. And he's able to keep going, and at the end, he's so proud. And honestly, that's what helping others hold on to hope can look and feel like. You might start off strong on the monkey bars, and somewhere in the middle, it's like, I'm losing grip. And it's someone coming alongside of you and saying, "No, I got you. You can finish." And I've seen this in people's lives here at Bellevue Christian Church. I think about just the everyday lives we live, like when Kate and Sam were moving and Rachel and Isaiah Reeves' small group literally helped them carry the load of moving. Or the Kleins everyday group, when Heather and Dylan were having their baby, they helped with a shower and celebrated, not just, "Yay, you're becoming a mom and dad," but, "Hey, we're alongside of you in this journey of parenthood." Or when Knight got in his accident and the church surrounded that family in prayer, right? All of these things happened in real life, and we can be there for each other. The reason this happened is because they met on a Sunday, but their relationship went outside of the walls of this church. Because again, when we hold on to hope together, people help us hold on to that hope. There are people in my life, as I'm sure are in yours, that have walked away from their faith or deconstructed their faith because they've walked away from community. And if you're sitting here today thinking, "I don't know that I can keep going. Life is hard, and I'm not seeing his grace and his goodness," tell somebody so that they can come alongside and help you hold on those monkey bars. Keep your grip. We don't just draw near to God alone. We hold on to hope together. And I'll tell you, my son, over time, doesn't need as much help. He grows stronger because helping hold on to hope isn't just about holding people up, but it's about helping them become more like Jesus and grow stronger. And that's why the writer in Hebrews 10, he leads us to what that looks like to help people grow stronger. And this is the last "let us" phrase. Let us consider. And it actually goes on to say, let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good works. That word "consider" is important because it means to think about, to be intentional, to actually pay attention to the people around you. Notice them. In other words, the kind of community that you want doesn't just happen. It takes thought, awareness, moving closer, knowing people. And then there's this word "provoke." Let us consider how to provoke. It's not a "let us consider to cheer you on," right? That's part of it. But provoke does not sound like a nice word. And I think it's used intentionally here because it literally means to irritate, to stir up, to incite. And those are not meant to be harmful to us, but to move us forward, to become more like Jesus, and it moves us into action. So this isn't just about cheering each other on. While that is part of it, it's about being close enough in someone's life to actually help them grow and spur them on. A couple weeks ago, during the NCAA women's basketball tournament, there was a moment that went viral with Coach Brenda Freese and one of her players, Aluchi Akananwa, and they're from the University of Maryland. And so Aluchi was the star player on the roster, and she was not having a good game. She was missing foul shots, not making layups, making poor decisions on defense. And during the third quarter, Freese calls a timeout. And she calls Oluchi to the side, and they have this moment. And so if you just look at this picture, or even the clip, because you can't hear what she's saying in that moment on the clip, you'd be like, I do not want to be Oluchi. This looks very harsh. But listen to what Coach Freese actually says to Oluchi. Look at my face. I need you to lock in. Stop being distracted. I believe in you, but you've got to want this more. This is not my story. Later on, Oluchi is interviewed, and reflecting on this moment, she shares that she was a little frustrated at that moment and thought she was going to be pulled out of the game. But she says, I realized it wasn't meant to take me out. It was meant to bring me back to life. It wasn't meant to take me out. It was meant to bring me back to life. How many of us need those moments where someone says something to us that speaks directly to where we are and where they can see we need to go, and says, Jesus has more for you. Lock in. Stop being distracted. Now, not everybody would be able to handle the intensity of that moment Coach Freese was offering to Oluchi. And Coach Freese, when she was reflecting, she acknowledges that. But she says, look, I have different moments with my different players. They all look a little different, but it's all because I know them. I know their everyday. I know their challenges that they face, who they want to become. And so I call them to that. But it takes her knowing her players and having that relationship. And this is the kind of community that Hebrews 10 is talking about. Not just people who from a distance say, you're doing great, keep going. But people who can speak to you and say, God has more for you than this. This is not your character and who you were created to be. Let's go. Because sometimes the most loving thing we can do isn't to just comfort somebody, but call them deeper and call them up. And so when we gather, in verse 25, when it says to gather, that's because it's the start of this. It becomes the catalyst for this type of community. People that hold us up and spur us on. Because you can't speak into people's life like this if you don't know them. Spurring one another on is calling out in them who Jesus has created them to be as they pursue him. Jen Wilkin has this quote. She explains it this way: the purpose of these warnings is not so that I can turn to the person next to me and decide whether they are developing a hard heart and are in danger of falling away. The purpose of these warnings are for self-examination, so we engage in self-examination and open ourselves up to the community of believers and say, help me. Give me both the good word and the hard word, so that I might not grow hard or give in to the deceitfulness of sin, but in fact that I would hold on to my original confidence. These moments are not to judge somebody, but to allow them an opportunity to reflect and say, am I being called to something more through Jesus? You know, some of my husband and my closest friends are from our high school youth group. That's where Connor and I met. If I said in the first service, if you want to find your mate, come to church. And I'm going to stick with that. If you want to find your mate, check out church, right? But I remember I went to college with one of my buddies from high school, and he knew me well and knew I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And he says, would you just stop and smell the roses? You just move too fast. And I was like, I'm getting stuff done, man, for Jesus. But what I realized as I reflect on the last 20 years is he was able to call something out that Jesus would be trying to transform over the last 2 decades in my life. He was calling me to something deeper so I could look more like Jesus. And that doesn't just happen on Sundays. Sundays are the start of it. Because this kind of community, it sounds beautiful, but it's really intimidating because you're probably like, Amanda, like people are going to know my stuff. Yeah, they're going to know your stuff. And they should. And that's why the writer in Hebrews, he doesn't start with what we have to do. He starts with what's already been done for us. If we look at the verses right before in Hebrews 10:19-22, he says, therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have boldness to enter the sanctuary through the blood of Jesus, he has inaugurated for us a new and living way through the curtain, that is, through his flesh. And since we have a great high priest over the house of God, let us. It leads into that, let us draw near. Because of these things that Jesus has done, because he made a way, you and I already have access. You see, in the Old Testament, the high priest was the only one allowed in what was called the Holy of Holies, and it was behind this big curtain, and they made atonement for the people of God's sin. They were the only ones allowed. But when Jesus died on the cross, that curtain was torn, and he says, you have access. I'm the high priest, and I welcome you. We don't have access because we have it all together. We gather because Jesus has already given us access. So we draw near not to prove ourselves, but because we're already welcomed. We hold on not because we're strong, but because he is. He is faithful. And we spur each other on not to pressure each other, but to help each other live out what is true because of Jesus in us. Francis Chan has this interesting thought that if you read the Bible, you don't walk away being like, oh, they were people that gathered a lot. They did gather. But that's not what you're really drawn to. What you're drawn to is that these were people on a mission to make disciples. And here we close with that every week. Go and make disciples. And his theory is, as we're on that mission of pursuing Jesus, we're going to be drawn to people who are doing that too. We don't necessarily need another accountability partner or prayer partner or Bible study. Those things are helpful, but we need people who are also drawing near to Jesus and saying, we got this. I'll hold you up. I'll tell you when Jesus wants more for you. We need those people. And how do we do that? What does that look like? Jenny Allen has this quote from Find Your People. We have to become people who stay. We have to become friends who show up to chop things for a few hours and stay even later to do the dishes, not to just eat. We need to do this consistently, time and time again. I'm convinced a key reason for our loneliness is that we give up too easily. Friendships take time, a lot of time. A lot of working it out, a lot of showing up, a lot of tears, a lot of laughter, a lot of food, a lot of inconvenience. This sense of belonging and encouragement that comes from community, it comes at a cost. Like Jenny Allen said, it's inconvenient. And Jesus already paid that cost. But are we willing to inconvenience ourselves to draw near, hold on, and consider others together? This doesn't happen accidentally. We have to take steps towards that. And so I wanted to give you just 3 ideas of some different steps you could take. It could be so much more than this. But the first, the starter step, if this is new to you, maybe it's making a little more space, which means you don't come on Sundays 5 minutes late and leave 5 minutes early. You come 5 minutes early and you stay 5 minutes late. You make space in your schedule to talk to people. Get to know them, help pick up. Or if this is something you're already in the habit of doing, maybe it's taking a step to move towards someone. That you're not just thinking about them and a week later you say, I was thinking about you this week. You send that text of encouragement, or you say, I'm praying this for you, not just a general, hey, praying for you, but tell them what you're praying about. Or let's meet up for coffee, go for a walk. Or you want to go deeper, this last step. Might be a stretch, but to go deeper and join that everyday group. Come to the landscaping day. Get to know people outside of Sundays. You know, we started this series on Easter Sunday, and Austin asked us to try an experiment to show up every Sunday in the month of April. How's that going? What have you noticed? I want to provoke you here, if I can for a minute, to keep coming. Keep coming, because if we neglect it, it says to keep showing up, not neglecting to gather together as some of us are in the habit of doing, but encouraging each other, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Let's keep gathering so that it can be the catalyst to draw near and hold on and consider others together. And maybe it will lead to a life change that makes you less distracted, less exhausted, less lonely, and more alive than ever. Let's pray. Jesus, we thank you that you are the high priest who has made a way for us, that we have access to you and you invite us to draw near. And God, I just pray that we would accept that invitation to draw near, and that we would hold on to hope and find others who are encouraging us in that, and that we would look for others to spur on and be spurred on ourselves to continue walking and loving you. In Jesus' name.